what I've set up here is, imagine that you're walking into the office at Monday at 8 a.m. You haven't had your coffee yet, and you've got an email from 3 different customers asking you or telling you about issues they experienced over the weekend. And so, in a situation like that, typically what you're doing is you're having to go to Pressable. You're actually going into the dashboard and having to pull 3 separate sites, having to do, 3 separate investigations. Or with MCP, we could take that and turn it into a conversation. So what I've done here is I've built a prompt. So what I've done is I said, I've got tickets from 3 clients about issues from this past weekend. And let me show you the Pressable account that I am working with here. This is my little Pressable account that I built, kind of a representation of what maybe a small agency would look like. And so 3 of these customers did have issues over the weekend, and now we're going to run this through Claude. And what I'm actually going to do, just because these will probably take a little while to run, is to show you the versatility. Let's go ahead and run the same thing through ChatGPT as well. Now, just a note while these run, that I am going to use Opus and ChatGPT 5.5 for this, just so we can see the best reasoning on these. And in my experience, most agency owners or people who are working with Pressable are usually using one of these 2 tools, with a smaller portion using tools like Claude Code, Cursor, things of that nature.
Yep. So you come in Monday morning, these customers have questions. Hey, something, with the site. As an agency owner, you're going, hey, look, take these tickets, put in the question that the customers ask, and go out and find either the problem on the WordPress website, and you're hoping that the LLM will come back with the solution, right?
Exactly. So in this case, we're just asking it to actually do the initial investigation for us. There we go. So now we see that. So of the 3 sites that we asked it to look into, it went through and it investigated everybody. And like I had asked it to actually, rank things by severity, actually let me know what happened this week or this weekend. And we can actually see that it did find some actual incidents that we need to look into here. And so we can see that it actually found that we do have some fatals that happened over the weekend. And it looks like it was from a plugin update. And we're seeing Stripe API errors, 500s in Nginx. And we're also seeing that we have some concern with another customer. And we have one that was just normal weekend noise. So now we know that we're going to want to do a little bit more investigation. Now, keeping in mind that, again, without AI, this is going to be quite the investigation. Our whole morning is gone. And even with Claude, running super duper slow, that was still 5 minutes of replacing easily an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of concentrated investigation before we even got to synthesis or analysis.
Yeah.
So let's move on now.
Go get the logs, read through the logs, summarize the logs. You could probably cross-analyze these logs, with those 3 clients and say, hey, if you see a similar problem across these 3 sites, let's identify that. If not, just show me what each site went through as an issue. And then you can, digest that when you get back to the desk. You can now go take a step away, grab a cup of coffee, maybe make some eggs and toast, and then come back down on your Monday morning and then jump into the issues.
Exactly. So, in this case, we could have come back, grabbed our coffee, and seen that the real one we need to really, really look into immediately is this Coastal Coffee. And the AI already gave us a window to look into that was between 4:30 and 5 on that last Sunday. And that when the plugin updated, we want to find out what happened. So let's go ahead and run that as well and start actually investigating. So what we see here is now it actually dug in, and it found that we actually had a major version jump of the WooCommerce Gateway Stripe plugin. And as we all know, sometimes plugin updates can be quite problematic, and that's what it looked like happened here. So it's laid out a whole timeline for us. And let's keep in mind that something that's really super exciting about something like this is, for anybody who's ever actually done real WordPress debugging and actually spent time in real logs, the amount of manual work it would take to lay out a timeline like this is quite intense.
Yeah.
And so to have it laid out for us, that that in itself is a game changer. But then when you add actual analysis on top of it, that's when it gets to be to the game changing level. And then something I really want to point out as well that people don't think about why they're doing this is as we're talking to the AI through this, is that the conversation is keeping the context, meaning that every message that we feed into this is creating a greater and greater amount of context that the AI has on the issue, creating better and better analysis as we dig deeper into the issue. So as we can see here that it did come up with some recommended next moves for us. But what I'd actually like to do here is let's ask it to actually dig into the access logs. And while that runs, we'll go check out ChatGPT. Okay, and as you can see, ChatGPT roughly did the same kind of analysis for us, did a complete timeline breakdown, figured out the actual version jump, took a look at access logs and check out Ajax logs.
I think the really
And
cool
then,
thing there too is it's giving you that time frame,
yes,
which, if you're
exactly.
yeah, like you were saying before, like when you're debugging logs, man, like you've got the customer yelling at you. You're like, now I got to fix this thing. And you're trying to go through all these logs and debug it and understand what's happening. It's really cool to have it just like give you that synopsis and say, hey, look through these like moments in time. And these are, the stuff that we found.
Exactly. And what's really interesting to me as well, I think one of the really exciting things for a agency workflow, for example, is the set it and forget it aspect. And but what I mean by that is imagine I wasn't running the same problem on two AIs. Imagine if we were running two completely different customer tickets at the same time, meaning that really we could allow these things to run without us. We could be focusing on another issue and then really the moment that we're needed is simply the moment in between messages where that's where we're looking back at the past response, we're applying our judgment layer to it, making sure the AI got it right, and then coming up with our next steps and allowing the AI then to execute on those steps. And then as execution occurs, we can go over and jump to another ticket. So I know in my own daily workflows, I often have 4 or 5 AI conversations open at the same time, which
Mhm.
allows me to meaning that really my work is less execution and more judgment around
Yeah.
that execution, which allows me to context switch, 4 or 5 things at once, which is again is the part that is allowing solo agencies and solo devs to really do things that weren't possible a year ago.
Yeah.
So let's jump back over to here. Okay, so as you can see, we asked it to pull Nginx access logs. And we also asked it to reference that with the PHP error logs in the same window. And it can build us a nice interleaved timeline.
Yeah. It's really cool.
And then it built us a nice little analysis here. And then now it's saying that we are ready for a rollback. But before we do that, let's have it do a little bit more investigation.
Yeah, I mean, even identifying those orders, it says at least 6 orders are in a known bad state from this window alone. Once again, if you're dealing with a customer who's just like, my entire business is down. You've lost all my, all my revenue and everything's down. You're like, well, listen, we've identified it in this window. It's these 6 orders. I mean, obviously nobody wants that to begin with, but it's not all of your business. It was during this moment in time.
Exactly,
Um,
and one of the most exciting things about that from someone who I used to work at agencies, and I know what it's like to have those customer fires happening, on a
yeah, yeah,
Monday morning, Friday night, is not just are we moving through the problem much more quickly, it's giving me information I can pass on to the customer as we work, meaning
yeah,
that they're feeling like they're being attended to, which is huge from a customer service aspect.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's allowing you, especially if you're that solo boutique agency, it's allowing you I don't know a way to say it other than, like, you've got more brain cells to be able to focus on the response to the customer because
Exactly.
this thing over here is doing some heavy lifting for you, and you can stay a lot more calm and, composed when responding to a customer, which is important.
Exactly. And, I think another aspect to that that's important is, there's a lot of research out there that right now is showing how AI is degrading certain, people's ability to think critically or execute their work. So I
Yep.
think that there's an important distinction to be made around like how you use AI in situations like this. And by that, I mean that by by using it as a method to take care of the execution that is mundane and allowing you to focus on the parts of the job that matter, whether that's the customer relationships or the deeper analysis, or taking the analysis the AI has brought you and building off that into a meta analysis that allows you to build on your customer relationships in a new way. Like those are the things that, keep you from allowing AI to degrade your abilities while also giving you new business values.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we asked it to pull the change log for the plugin, and that way we could understand what it actually updated and changed about the checkout and order processing, and was an automated backup taken before that. So it went through and it completely analyzed that for us. It mapped it to our fatal. It looked for backups, and we do see that it took some scheduled and on demands. So we do know that we have the ability to roll back if we'd like. And now it's asking if we'd like to restore. So yes, we are going to go ahead, and we know which, and in this case, let's just say I've done the research and I know that I want the backup taken at the 433, or actually it would be this on demand at 434 that we want to restore. So we're going to go ahead and ask it to do that. And again, this is another big one for us because, again, if for anybody who is under pressure and working, and actually I don't want to, and I'm just going to say real quick, I don't want to run the same prompt here through ChatGPT or we'll get the same site restored twice. So we're going to focus on Claude for this one. But yes, but again, when you're under pressure, you've got customers screaming at you, the site restores. And one of the things I'm going to handle after I go through this demo is I'm going to show what it's like to set up a new site using MCP. Again, these are things that, they don't really require any real thought or cognition on the part of the agency. There are things that you do every day and are just manual procedures that, they're huge time savers. To just simply go to your AI, give it a conversational command and walk away. And that's what I really, really like.